Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before we get into it with our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Bethan Kennedy on the podcast. She's another one of our guests coming to us all the way from the UK, where, we've been having a lot of UK guests on, but hey, I enjoy it because, like I've told all my guests on, I love the accent, but she's a bodybuilder and she's on to, share her health and fitness journey and discuss all things health and fitness. But before we get into everything, first of all, Bethan, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, I got to ask first of all, because you are near the Liverpool-Manchester area, what is the weather like in the UK today?
Currently, right now, it's a little bit sunny, but then it starts to rain, and then it's sleet, and then it's meant to be May, it's meant to be summer, but it's a little bit hit and miss, but it's okay. We're getting there slowly.
Here it's like, because we do Fahrenheit, you do Celsius, so I don't know what but it's like 59 degrees Fahrenheit here, so I don't know what that is Celsius, but so it's not bad, but it's still like kind of like sweater weather. But I live in Minnesota, but yeah, that's great. But hey, at least so before we get into the health and fitness thing, I know that you guys just had your restrictions lifted a little while back for COVID because you guys were in a second lockdown, which we were never really in here. So what has your whole experience been like before we even get into the bodybuilding, been like during this whole COVID pandemic? Because I think in the UK you guys have dealt with it, specifically it may be a little bit worse than it has been here, even though we have more cases and deaths, but like you guys have had more of the lockdowns and stuff.
For me, it's been challenging. The 23rd of March, I think, was our first full lockdown, and it was the day that I started a new job. On the first day. So I rang them on the Friday and said, "Am I still due to come in on Monday?" They were like, "Yeah, you come in." So me, I've been really lucky that I've worked right through it. Yeah, I've been training like on the job through it as well, which was a bit difficult. It was like you're in the office, you're at home, you're in the office, you're at home. So that was going on in the background. And then I think I was training like at home and just had resistance bands and doing everything I could that way. And then I think from what I remember, the gyms opened back up again then. And then we went into a second lockdown. So that's when I got myself just a pair of dumbbells, as you do, tried to do as much as I could from them. And then there was like tiers that opened and some parts opened, some parts didn't open. I think Liverpool stayed open and different areas shut. And so I managed to get into like a gym in a different area then. And then a third lockdown came and everything completely shut again. So that's when I went into the garage. I bought myself a bench off eBay. I sourced a bar from someone off eBay as well. And they said to me, "Oh, come down to Liverpool, come and pick it up." But then I got a message saying, "Oh, I'm not able to do it. Come and get it off my friend." And I was like, "What is happening? I don't know I don't know what's going on here, but I want this bar so badly." So I eventually got the bar, and then it was a case of sourcing plates to go on the bar, which was difficult, let's say. But eventually I got like an ironmonger, so someone that makes fences. They just happened to be selling plates at the time. So I got in touch with them, drove an hour to go pick up the plates, got them back home again, got them to put them on my bar. They wouldn't fit my bar. I was like, "No, please, no." So yeah, I got them all back in my car again, took them all the way back to like the warehouse and said they don't fit on my bar, and they were like, "Oh well, we can sort them, change them and everything." Got them back home for the second time, still didn't fit on my bar. I was like, "How can this be happening right now?" So yeah, it was a case of hand filing them down, getting a metal file and hand filing them down. And yeah, putting my bench up off eBay, which the instruction book was no joke, about this big with like instructions like this big. But yeah, got there. So on the third lockdown, I had my little garage set up with my bench, my barbell, some plates, very old school kind of training there. And then was still working right through the pandemic with full time work as well. So it's been okay. Just had to keep going through it really.
and that's why I love having bodybuilders on, because their dedication is unlike anything else. Where I mean, no other person would, drive first of all hours to get weights and then drive them back and then end up filing them down. Which I mean, that is great. And I mean, we had a second ish lockdown here where just the gyms were shut down, but everything else was really open. Where yeah, as soon as that happened, I had friends messaging me who were just like, yeah, do you have any like barbells or anything like that? So I had a few extra ones that I gave them. So yeah, they became hot commodities. But what inspired and what motivated you first of all to really get into this lifestyle and really take things seriously when it came to getting in shape, and then how did that lead into bodybuilding for you?
Ever since I was little, from like how far back I can remember, I've always been into dance. Like first started dancing, as you do as a child. I did ballet, tap, and then I went into line dancing, did a bit of cheerleading, and then when I was about 6 or 7, I started gymnastics. I did gymnastics then until I was 16. And that's where it got to the point where I didn't make it in gymnastics, and you get a little bit old then. So, and I was doing my exams at the time at high school. So then I went and did a bit of coaching, helped out with the younger ones then in the gymnastics school. And then after that, it went on to breakdancing. Got into breakdancing, started, yeah, spinning on my head as you do. But yeah, that was at the same time as my exams. So I had to finish high school first and then went into breakdancing. But yeah, there was too many injuries involved in that sport. So that came to a bit of an end. And at that time as well, I had like an illness. I got diagnosed with glandular fever. And the normal person's body would attack the virus, but mine decided to attack itself. So it attacked its own immune system. So that put me out for quite a while. But I used to go to like an adults gymnastics place because didn't stop. Still wanted to train somehow. So, and if my mum watches this, she might already know. But I used to go with like my training stuff underneath, and then a pair of jeans and like just flip flops or something. So it looked like I wasn't training. But when I got there, obviously I just got changed and was training. And then but it didn't help the situation because the doctors then said to me like I was allergic to exercise, and my body just wouldn't be able to cope with it. And yeah, I went through like therapy was the only way that helped it really. It was learning how to walk again, learning how to dress again, learning how to just do everything from scratch just to stop my body. It started running on like adrenaline instead of its own energy sources. So I had to just go from the very beginning and start everything again from scratch. So I was like out of work, out of sports, out of everything. And I was like, no way, I am not stopping sports. No, you can't say this to someone that's been in it since they were a kid. So yeah, it was just a matter of like learning my body, learning when it was going on to adrenaline and when it was energy. And then it worked up from there. And then in 2015, I moved away, went and worked for a travel company then. And my first season was in Ibiza. So everyone was like, oh my God, I can't believe you've got Ibiza, the super clubs and this, that, and everyone. I was like, um, okay, I guess it's a good thing. I'm not sure, but I got there and I was like, wow, what is this? Like, there's big clubs everywhere, there's people partying and stuff. And I was like, okay, it's my first season. I need to either find something that interests me and, calm down, or I'll probably lose my job. So that's when I went online and found my first ever PT. And I just got into the gym, into lifting weights really then. Yeah, I was English, spoke English and Spanish, so that helped a lot.
Wait, so you can speak Spanish?
Poquito. I don't
You
know if
you
anyone.
can you can speak more than me. I mean, I did the couple of years of Spanish that we have to do really over here, and then I did German in high school, and then a little bit in college. So I speak German better than I speak Spanish, but I speak Spanish. I could have like a 10-second conversation with you, and then that's really about it. But first of all, I didn't even know that breakdancing was a thing in the UK. I thought it was just something that was over here in the States. So that's awesome. I mean, I learned something new every day. And then, hey, being allergic to exercise, that is one of the best excuses that you could ever have. Then, if you want to, if you're ever like in a PE class or something like that, and you just be like, oh yeah, my doctor said I'm allergic to exercise. So how did you eventually get over that though? Because if your body was like actually like allergic to exercising, how did you eventually overcome that?
It was hard. It was a lot of tests. I went to like the Tropical School of Medicine to try and find out what it was that was causing it. And then they just said it was post-viral chronic fatigue syndrome. So once I had the diagnosis, then had CBT, like cognitive behavioral therapy, and it was just then it was like having to just admit, basically a little bit admit defeat. I've got it. I need to just admit I've got it and start from scratch. So it was just learning how to like walk in the morning, get up, brush your hair, and then stop, and then carry on, and then stop. So make sure like my energy levels was like topping up naturally and not just like going all out and then crashing. So yeah, it was just a matter of doing a little bit at a time, and progressing really. That's it. Just having a goal in mind that I'm not I'm not stopping.
Was there a certain moment in your training when you decided that you wanted to give bodybuilding a try, or was it just an accumulation of a lot of times when you were just like, oh, hey, this might be something that's interesting, or was there a certain moment that you can really like log back on and or that you can really think of that where you really just like, hey, bodybuilding, that sounds cool?
I don't think there's just I'd probably say when I went into the gym, I just loved it. I love the lifting, I love the weights, I love the feel of it. I love how I felt afterwards. I just worked out in the gym really with my PT, and then I did 8 other seasons. So I've done like the Greek islands, some more Spanish islands, but some islands like the Greek ones didn't have any gyms. So at that point, I just tried everything. Went walking, did a bit of jogging, but I missed the gym so much. So I just knew then that I wanted to be in that environment like a lot.
Well, I got to ask because I'm a huge history buff. What part of Greece were you in?
I've done Santorini and Kefalonia.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So that's yeah. That's. I mean, if I ever went to Greece, first of all, I'd be going to like Thermopylae. I'd be going to all those places just because that's the history nerd in me, where I just be going absolutely crazy. So that again, everyone, that's one of the benefits about living in Europe, where all the countries are right next to each other. The only place that I can really go to are either Mexico and Canada, and I mean, let's be honest, there's not that much historical value in Mexico or Canada. So I gotta take a long plane ride. But yeah, that is so awesome. But when you were getting started, in bodybuilding, were there any myths or misconceptions that you had about the sport? Because so many people, if you were to mention bodybuilding to them, they just have a certain image about the sport, and a lot of it's a lot of myths. But was there anything that you were concerned about before you got started in the sport?
Um, Probably not. It still doesn't really phase me in that way because I'm so just tunnel vision and into training that anybody else's thoughts or opinions or it can't say it really like affects me in that way. I just think that's their opinion and that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their thoughts on it. Yeah, you do get a little bit of oh, can I have an arm wrestle? Oh, and I'm just like, oh really? No, now's not the time.
Yeah, yeah, you do deal with that a lot. That's what happened to me in college when I was a little bit bigger than I am now. You had to deal with all that. But I also love to talk genetics on this podcast because so many people do not understand that. I mean, let's be honest, everyone's on social media and everyone's always like, "Oh my god, I want his arms, I want her abs, I want their back." And it's like, "Oh my god, you can only be the best version of yourself." People just don't understand that, you could do everything that person does and you won't end up looking exactly the same as them. And I mean, it just comes down to genetics where I mean, let's be honest, some people are just more blessed than others, but everyone always has that one body part when they first start working out that really really takes off that they don't have to train as much. And then everyone always has that one body part that just drags behind it. They have to train to oblivion. For me, my back really took off and then my legs and my lower body were just absolutely shot where I had to train them for forever to get them to catch up. But what were those body parts for you when you were getting started?
Yeah, probably my best is my upper body. Naturally, I think as a gymnast, I was stronger in my shoulders and my um, arms, I'd say, and my back, and then like my lower body, especially with the fatigue, I wasn't able to train. I was very scared of training so much like on my legs and my lower body. So now it's like trying to play like a bit of catch up with my lower body, really.
Yeah, that's a welcome to the club. I mean, yeah, leg work. Well, I'm 6'3" too, so that also doesn't really help so much. So yeah, it's a whole different. That's why I was a good pitcher in baseball. I had that perfect baseball pitcher body where I was tall, long, and lengthy. Where now, yeah, it's yeah, that's a whole different podcast in and of itself talking about that. But I mean, one of the myths and stereotypes that we do love to bust on this podcast, and I mean, it's gotten better every single time that I've talked to someone, I get a few messages every once in a while saying like, oh, that really helped me. But we talked about this before we started recording, is that there's so many women still, unfortunately, who have that belief that if they go walk in the gym, they do one bicep curl, they're going to put on 50 pounds of muscle overnight. And, first of all, like I told her before, I'd spend my entire life savings to train with you then. But did you ever have that fear when you were getting started? And even if you didn't, I mean, I bet you still hear that all the time now. How do you like to respond to that?
Yeah, I'd probably hear it more. I didn't really have any fear about it. I think as a gymnast, I was always a little bit muscular growing up. I was always the base as well. If we did sports acro, I was always the base. I was never the one that got thrown up in the air. I was always the bigger girl, with more muscle. So yeah, I think they just kind of got used to being the way that I am in that way. But for the girls that say, "Oh, you'll put on muscle if you go in the gym," you don't. You don't. It's hard work. It's hard graft. Even if you've got good genetics, it's still you have to have your diet on point, and there's more to it than just lifting weights and building muscle that fast.
Unfortunately, that's true. And again, if that does happen to you where you just gain all that muscle, leave your number down below and you'll become my trainer for life then, and I'll spend my entire life savings to train with you then. But on top of this, I mean, I think the one thing that impacts women so much more than it does men, and it impacts men as well though, is that confidence boost that working out gives you. We have heard so many stories on this podcast of women who have, they've either been able to make life-changing decisions, it's maybe just even help them become more assertive, and it's just there's so many other benefits that it adds to. And that's the one thing that I always say you can take from the gym and use to impact every single aspect of your life. How have you personally taken that confidence boost that working out's given you and use it to impact your life in a positive way?
It's yeah, confidence boost was a big thing, and I'm still in touch with my first PT now, and I always just thank him for the opportunity of just settling me in the gym, just getting me into that environment. And it was a Spanish gym as well, so I was a bit like, okay, I'm not sure what everyone's saying. I don't know, I don't know if they're talking about me, I'm the English girl, and they call you like gringo over there, which is like the foreigner. Um, and yeah, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have had the confidence then, to basically go into the gym. And I went over to Turkey. I joined a gym in Turkey, and yeah, it just gave me the confidence just to, you can do it. What's stopping you from going in there and doing it? And yeah, and then like outside of that as well, it's like discipline, it's focusing, it's goals, there's a lot more than just lifting a weight. It's like a lifestyle that comes in the gym and out of the gym as well. I like to kind of, yeah, just keep it with both really.
So what was the gym atmosphere like in Turkey? Because they're not really known for their gyms, I don't really think.
Yeah, I was very lucky that I lived when I was over there just behind a sports hall. So the translation of getting a membership was probably the most difficult thing. Thank God for Google Translate. But yeah, once I got that, everyone was very happy. Like, they're just happy to be in there. They say everyone's got their own goals, so you just get on with it really. But
I mean that you've been so many places, and that's I mean, I have never even left the United States. I've been to most of the states in the United States. I think I've been to like 30 or so of the 50, but like yeah, I have not. I've always said if I were to ever travel abroad, it would be to Norway because I'm mainly Norwegian in my heritage, so I'd always want to go and visit my family that still lives there in the village that they live in. But yeah, that is just awesome how you've been to so many different places, and I have friends who've traveled abroad too, and I'm just like I get jealous, but I always do tell people too when they're ever like, why don't you really travel abroad? I say, well, because we're lucky in the United States where if you want to go visit a desert, you can go to Arizona and visit a desert. If you want to go visit a heavily wooded area, come to Minnesota. You can go visit that. If you want to visit, we have every type of geographic really that's possible. So it's like, yeah, we got it here, but still, yeah, I really do want to travel abroad. But yeah, that is just so awesome. But I mean, on top of everything that we've talked about, the most important thing, I don't care what anyone says, other than sleep, but we'll get into that later because don't even get me started on that. I mean, it's a whole topic that we're going to discuss in and of itself, but is nutrition. I mean, let's be honest, nutrition is, 80 to 90% of the results that you're going to see. Abs are made in the kitchen. And unfortunately, that's the one thing that I struggle with the most, where I mean, I would be, at 2% body fat right now if I had proper nutrition as opposed to like the 10 to 12, or I think I'm at like 15% right now. I've let myself go a little bit during during COVID, everyone. So cut me a break though. I have the excuse, but what does your nutrition look like? Because I mean, it's so individualized for every single person, where just like with the working out, if you were to have someone's exact nutrition, you're not going to get the same results.
that's right. Yeah, I think everyone's tailored depending on their body type, and if there's any dietary requirements or what they can digest well, what doesn't digest well. So when was it, back in June last year? I got myself like a new coach, and ever since I've been with Hilly, he's put me on a meal plan. At the very beginning, he was saying like, what do you eat? What do you enjoy to eat? What's your daily? What do you have usually in your day? So I just sent up like what I have over, and then he comes through with a plan, and we've kind of tweaked it. So I was like kind of not so much off season, but with the comps being postponed, I was kind of maintaining my body weight until prep, until we got a comp and a date and that. So it's at the moment I'm on a meal plan, which is fine. I enjoy it. It's I've got my carb set, my protein set, and then it's kind of any amount of salad or veg. So, and in my spare time, I'm a bit sad, I like to watch MasterChef. So when I'm in the kitchen, I kind of, I pretend I'm MasterChef, but I'm not at all. But it kind of like makes it a little bit more interesting on what I can do with my veg, and yeah, it's good.
That's one thing that I've never understood about a lot of these bodybuilders I have on. They all of them, they love the cooking shows, and it's like, why do you like to torture yourself like that? For me, as soon as a cooking show would be on, I'd be like, turn the damn TV off. I don't want to see that. But I mean, when you're allowed a cheat meal, what is your go-to cheat meal?
Trying to think. Oh, it's gonna be a bit random. A cooked chicken from the deli counter. It's
Isn't chicken a part of your like normal diet anyway?
it is, but the chicken that I have normally is like the chicken breast. It's so when you get like the juicy, hot, tasty, it's different. So that is like my go-to.
If that is your cheat meal, then bodybuilding is definitely the sport for you. If a part of if more chicken or a different part of a chicken is your cheat meal, I mean that's the first time we've heard chicken. So we get first for everything on this podcast. But another aspect about the bodybuilding lifestyle that I would have never guessed before I started this podcast, I was aware of it, but I didn't really realize how important it was, and that I didn't realize that for so many of these competitors, it's the hardest thing, for them, is posing. I would have never guessed it in a million years that for so many of these competitors, posing is the most important thing. Whether it comes down to your diet or you're working out, posing tops it all. Where I mean, I like to compare it now to being a perfect driver, where you can be a great driver, you can never be a perfect driver. You can be a great poser, you can never be a perfect poser. It's always ever evolving. What has your experience with posing been like?
It's been hard. It's been challenging. But when I look back at when I started to where I am now, I'm like, oh, actually, I have improved a little bit. But when you're like posing so often, it's hard to see, improvements, or you just feel back pain. That's all I can say is, um, but yeah, from 2019, I think I bought my first online um posing tutorial from Emma Heineman. And then I had, was it probably, whew, April, May, I think I went to one posing like session for PCA. That was last year. Yeah, because I was going to compete in in April last year. So I thought, oh, that'll be fine. I'll just have the one, free posing seminar, and I'll be good to go. Anyway, lockdown came, thank God, because I was not ready, like, at all. So then during lockdown, I got like a 4-week intensive course with Emma, and booked some more one-to-one studios in, like sessions in the studio, had a Skype call. And then on Sunday, I've got like a first timers stage seminar that's never been done before. So it's going to be like all first timers, and we get to like a run through in a theatre, just to see what it'd be like on show day, really. So I'm really, really excited for that. I
Oh,
can't
so you
wait.
haven't done a show yet?
No.
And she okay, I'm gonna show some of her Instagram photos, and she looks like that, everyone, and she's a first time competitor. That's amazing. Just by looking at some of your photos, I thought you competed like multiple times, which is even better. But out of your poses that you do even right now, even though you've practiced it, a couple of times, what so far has been your favorite, and what has been your least favorite?
My favorite would be front pose, power pose. I just really like that. I feel like when I do it, I kind of feel like my head's up. I'm proud, and I'm showcasing the hard work that I've put in, really. The most one, my least favorite is probably the side poses, just because they're so hard. Like at the beginning, when I had one of my online classes, the teacher said to me, it's like having like a towel, so you just ringing yourself out, but sideways, so your head's gonna go one way and the upper half one way. and then your hips are still to face that way. And I just could not understand how my hips were to face. And to start with, I didn't even really know where my hips and my waist, what the difference was between my hips and my waist. I was like, how can you have that that way and then this way? But yeah, it's still place like still got to learn. And
Well, and the biggest thing for so many, especially female competitors, is the flaring of the lats or getting the lats to even pop. Was that something that you struggled with? Because I know you said that your back and your upper body really, really took off. And for some people, I mean, they can just do it, just automatically. But for other people, we've had people that it's taken years to develop a nice being able to flare the lats. What was that like for you?
yeah, it's not been easy. It's not natural at all. I do remember being in the gym studio, having my camera set up, and just doing it one and then down, one and then down, and the other one and down, the other one down. And people are probably looking at me thinking, "What on earth is she doing?" Like she's like kneeling on the floor doing this. But yeah, it takes time. But eventually, I think we're making a bit of progress.
Oh my God. Yeah. And I compare it now to from all the guests that I've heard and, talked to, it's sort of like riding a bike where as soon as you finally like develop it, it's impossible to like unlearn it, but it takes so much trial and error, which is something that I've wanted to name this podcast. But spoiler alert, I've mentioned this, about a dozen times, but I've done so many podcasts that people probably haven't heard. The reason why it's called DD on the spot is because in college, I was known as the designated driver on the spot. Now but here's my schedule. Every Friday night I would be the designated driver, and then Saturday night I would just go absolutely crazy and then be hungover on Sunday. But I was known as the designated driver on the spot because I'd always like to drive people. I love driving, so yeah, that was my reasoning for this podcast. But yeah, if I could rename it, I would definitely do trial and error because yeah, that is the whole aspect of this lifestyle that people just do not understand at all. But I mean, now, two of the things that, I love to talk about on this podcast, especially when it comes to, this lifestyle, and, I ask this to every single question or to every single guest, I should say, is that, you know, sleep. Let's be honest. I mentioned that I was going to talk about it before, but I mean, it is by far the most important thing in this lifestyle. And if anyone disagrees with me on that, I always tell them pull an all-nighter and then tell me how that goes because, it's almost impossible. Twice in college that happened, and one time I was able to get my workout in. I lasted about, 3/4 of the way, and I was like, screw this. And the other time I just showed up to the gym and I just took one look and I was like, yeah, I'm going back and going to sleep. But it is just so important. But what is your relationship with sleep like? Because as soon as you really start your, off season, sleep is different. But then as soon as you start your prep, I mean, sleep just becomes so much harder than it does for even the average person. And you also need to be getting more sleep being a competitor.
Yeah, sleep. I always make sure I get enough sleep. Like, I love sleep. I always say I can sleep standing up. I could sleep anywhere. I remember going to London once, and I fell asleep on the tube, and it was like packed. So I was stood like right next to someone. I was just like, yeah, I could just sleep here.
Wait, wait,
So
wait. You were standing up and fell asleep?
yeah,
Oh
standing up,
my
fell asleep
God.
on the tube. So yeah, I don't really have a problem sleeping. Thank God. Like I'm lucky in that way. I don't know if going more into prep. I'm now 8.5 weeks out. So I don't know how it will be then, but I always make sure, I set my alarm in the morning, every morning, up at I think about 5:30, 6 o'clock, for fasted cardio, and then in bed by about say latest 10:30, 11 o'clock. So it's yeah.
Well, for me, I mean, I'm an absolute night owl where I mean, I've been going to bed like at 3 or 4 in the morning the last couple nights, and I'm getting up at, like 10, anywhere from 10 to noon. So that's why when I scheduled this podcast, I just set my alarm clock for 10:30, but I got up at 9:30 by myself. So I was happy that I was able to do that. But yeah, I'm a complete opposite for that where I mean, yeah, don't even get me started on sleep too, because I struggle with sleep. I'm not gonna lie, but I've never even seen anyone asleep standing up. So that's a sight to see. And I could never imagine even doing that. Like I'm one of those really hyperactive people where as soon as I get up, I'm up for the rest of the day. Good luck trying to get me a nap. I probably napped about a dozen times in my entire 26 years on this planet. So, it's very rare if that's ever happened to me. But yeah, sleep is just yeah, it's just a pain. But I've always said one of the best feelings that you can ever have on the planet is after you get that long hard workout in and you get that proper amount of sleep and you wake up feeling like a superhero. I mean, that's one of the best feelings on the planet. But unfortunately for me, those are rare and far between getting that proper amount of sleep. But it's just I mean, everything just about this lifestyle really just is so fascinating to me. But another thing that I really just find just hilarious about this is that the minute that you start bodybuilding, I mean, clothing options become very, very few and far in between for you. So what has that been like for you sort of when it comes to the clothes? Because I've had some, like super huge female bodybuilders on and they just, they have to basically make their own wardrobe. But you especially, I mean, I mean, let's be honest, you're probably going to be wearing a lot of what you're wearing right now, just like those sweaters and stuff. But how has this affected your clothing options as well? Because that's one of the things that people do not think about too much when they think about bodybuilding.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, it's like it is a question on my check-in form with my coach as well. It's like, how are the clothes fitting? And recently, I've kind of said, well, in a good way, because we always try to be like positive on the feedback form as well. It's not like, oh, they don't fit. It's kind of like, oh well, they don't fit anymore, but it means I can go shopping. Like it's okay. Um, Generally jeans, I have a problem. I don't really wear jeans much because the waist is smaller, and then obviously the hips and the glutes are a little bit bigger. So jeans have always been a problem, but you can generally just find me in gym wear anyway.
Well, and yeah, and I mean, gym wear is a life savior, but yeah, just that clothing thing. I mean, you have to have two different wardrobes. You have to have your prep wardrobe and your off season wardrobe. So I mean, yeah, just everyone needs to just realize that because yeah, I mean, unfortunately, they don't make like jeans or average wear for bodybuilders. But I mean, everyone out there, you should definitely get on that if you're thinking about it. But now, I mean, what was your friends and family's reaction like when you announced that you want to be a bodybuilder? Because it's not something that I think most young women would tell their parents and tell their friends. So what was their opinion on it all?
I think my friends kind of seen it coming because they always knew I was into gymnastics, dancing, break dancing, and into the gym. And yeah, my friends are very supportive. I went to like a little barbecue, wasn't that like a barbecue, like a campfire. There was only like four of us outside in the garden with obviously restrictions and whatnot going on. And they all had hot chocolate and the drinks and everything. And I was sat there with my black coffee, and my friend said to me, he says, "Oh, do you want a protein shake?" I was like, "No, no, I'm all right, thank you." He's like, "Oh, okay. Do you want a tin of tuna?" I was like, "No, no, no, I'm fine, thanks." And he was like, "Do you just want the water out of the tuna?" I was like, "Come on." But yeah, they're really supportive, my friends. They just, yeah. And one of my friends from the Netherlands has said that she's might be, if restrictions allow it, fly over for my comp in July. So that's like amazing. And yeah, my mum, yeah, shout out to my mum. She's the most supportive parent ever. During this lockdown, because I live at home here, she basically let me turn the garage into my gym and the spare room into my posing room and my check-in room. So yeah, I couldn't have done it without her support. And I'm not sure if my dad really understands what it is I'm doing. I don't think yeah, but he's always supportive as well.
Well, it's always hard too. I always have a special heart for the dads because it's hard when to see your daughter up in a bikini like on stage and stuff like that. That's hard for really any dad. So hey, more power to him. But that's just great that you have that support because I found that for so many people, I mean, just that support means the world because we've had guests that haven't had that support, and it makes this journey 10 times harder than it really needs to be. But I just can't get over that tuna. I hate tuna more than anything that I've ever seen on the. I mean, yeah, ugh, I almost threw up on this podcast, everyone. But hey, we got past it, but yeah, it's just so fascinating, all the stuff that this life entails because people, yeah, they just don't understand really, what it's like to be a bodybuilder and what it's like to compete. They just think, oh, those are the people that just work out a lot and they go on stage and they pose. And it's like, yeah, you got like 1% of the lifestyle down, but the bane of my existence, one thing that I hate more than life itself is cardio, where that's my trigger word where it's like, don't even mention it to me because when I say cardio, I mean like actual running. Like I can go on a walk for like 5 straight hours and I'll be absolutely fine. But what has your relationship with cardio been like?
Yeah, the same. I enjoy walking more than anything. I love being outdoors. I love being in nature. Um, I'm not so much of a runner or a sprinter or anything like that. I think if it was in if it was in my training like program, I would probably give it a go. But yeah, not my best. But I did have hit training during the winter until it got took out because it was too dangerous to do it in the snow and the ice because I was still outside doing like hit training with the skipping rope on the ice. And I put a video on Instagram. My coach was like, "No, no, no, we're stopping it. It's coming out. You're inside and you're doing yoga instead on rest days." So that got took out, and then now we're doing 40 minutes fasted, just a fasted walk in the morning, and then 20 minutes post workout on the bike. So it's really good. Like it's nothing too hardcore. It's just it gets me up in the morning, it gets me out, it gets me like fresh and ready for the morning. Really, it's nice.
Which, yeah, and I mean, I've heard some horror stories of people who had to do like 2 to 3 hours of cardio a day, and it's just like, good God, how do you even function as a human being? Like, I just don't understand that. But hey, more power to them. But one of the training techniques that I love to talk about also is, time under tension, because it's one thing that I was aware of, before I started this podcast, and I'd done it a few times in high school, but people just don't understand that that's a technique that a lot of people use. And for guests that I have on, they either use it or they don't. But it's a very in between. But do you like to use a lot of time under tension in your training?
A little bit, yeah. We tried for the 3 seconds, and yeah, for most of the lifts really, 3 second negative, and then push to fail. Like I've got my working sets, and then at the end, always try for the last like 2 or 3 reps. Just don't max out and do like 20 more, because obviously you need to put the weight up a little bit. But yeah, just push to failure, push to as much as you can, whilst obviously keeping your form still. So it's been good. I really really enjoyed the different kind of training style, because I've had the garage lockdown training, um, and then back in the gym training. So it's good.
Well, and every bodybuilder has this. What is one body part of yours that gets recognized more than anything else? Because there's always, that one body part that everyone always, says, "Oh my God, that's awesome," more than anything else. What's that for you?
I've had a couple of comments on my abs really. They have in the gym, "Oh, you've always got abs, or you're always lean. How?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. They're just that." Either abs or shoulders as well. Yeah, a bit on my shoulders.
Which is great. Well, so now I got to ask, because shoulders, that's the number one answer that I hear from women when I asked you before, like, what's one body part that took off and one that struggled? Shoulders is the number one answer for like the body part that struggled, just because I think that's for women. That I don't know. I just did a poll and I've looked up all my answers, and shoulders is by far. So anytime I have a guest that has, nice shoulders that really took off for them, what does a shoulder day look like for you? Because I would get killed in the comments down below by women being like, "Oh my God, you didn't ask her what her shoulder workout is. You suck." Because I've been trying to grow my shoulders my entire life. So what is her shoulder workout look like?
I would probably say it's genetics, to be honest. I don't think um I'm with gymnastics background, breakdancing. It's quite high impact on the shoulders and the arms. Other than that, it's shoulder press. Um, I think that's it really. I don't have like a certain actual shoulder workout, to be honest.
Which is one thing that I have to tell people all the time, is just like, you don't understand that it is mostly genetic. I mean, that's like, it's about half genetic, half the hard work. But some people just do not understand that. But the final few questions here before we wrap things up, I mean, out of all the things that have to do with this entire lifestyle, health and fitness, bodybuilding, if someone were to come up to you and say, we made the decision, you can change one thing about the health and fitness lifestyle, and everyone would go along with it, what would be one thing that you'd like to see changed?
Hmm, that's a good one. Oh gosh, I don't know. You've caught me then.
We save the tough ones for the end. Everyone, know. I like to say that. I can give you mine first while you're thinking.
Yeah, go on then.
So I mean, with bodybuilding, I have my own thing where it's like the judges need to be a little bit more uh impartial, whereas some shows might want a little bit more of a fuller look, and then the next show they might want a little bit more of a leaner look. So just be on that. But in the health and fitness thing, I mean, so many of these people that I see online who aren't even personal trainers offering their advice to people, where it's just like, come on, where it's or the people that compete in one show and then they just put on their thing like, oh yeah, I'm a bodybuilder and stuff, and then they try to sell their nutrition. It's like, and they're not even certified. Like if you're certified, that's good enough for me. But like people that aren't even certified and they're offering people, it's like that's the different. And yeah, I just got a whole thing on that where it's like, make sure that you have your certification and make sure that you do your research on trainers too, because for every good trainer out there, there's a few bad ones too. So you really have to do your research and know who you're dealing with.
Yeah, it can be a bit dangerous as well for someone that's new to the game. Like, I could have easily got caught up with someone that's like a trainer that says they're certified, or but there's like so much marketing and media out there that it's not really fair on us newbies to have, you know, for them to be who we think we can trust, basically, because we don't know. So yeah.
Especially for females too, because there's a lot of male trainers out there that might have you do some stuff or have you on some things that they don't know how it affects the female body as opposed to the male body, because they're males. So that's definitely one thing too that you definitely got to look out for. So but yeah, there's just things, just like everything else in life. You got to be careful, you got to keep your eyes peeled. But if we were to talk to a year from today, where would you like to be at, just in your bodybuilding, just in your overall life? What are some goals that you'd like to have achieved if we were to talk to a year from today?
A year from today. So right now, 8.5 weeks out from my first ever show, and I cannot wait to get on that stage. I'm just so yeah, just so excited to start it basically now. Just to kind of yeah, just to get up there, hold my head up high, and just say, look what I've done. Like to the doctors that said I could never exercise again. Well, look at me now. Just to get that first show done. To start with, really. And then see what happens from there. I've got another one 2 weeks out, like 2 weeks after that, in my hometown of St Helens, the best thing to come to St Helens. Yeah, that's that for bodybuilding for now, just to see this year what like what comes out of that. Work wise, yeah, I started my new job as I said on the day of lockdown. I got made permanent at that position now, so I'm happy with that. And I'm currently just doing like a development program to work my way up the ranks in my career as well. So
That is great. And I mean, lastly, time management is one thing that so many people struggle with, myself included. And when you have a job and you're a bodybuilder, I mean, that's 2 full-time jobs basically, and your time management has to be near perfect in order to function as a human, excuse me, as a human being. Because I mean, yeah, I can't even imagine, doing both those, where I've had part-time jobs and did almost like a bodybuilding style, and it drove me crazy, and doing this podcast too. So I mean, my time management, I'm one of those people where I basically have to be forced to have good time management. Like I'm never just going to do it just on my own. But what are your tips that you might have for people who are struggling with that? Because that's, I think, one thing that's keeping so many people from, getting in shape and, really taking things seriously in the gym, is the excuse that we hear of all the time. Oh, I just don't have enough time. I just don't have the time. And it's like, well, you do if you really just learned how to focus down.
yeah, I think everyone's got the same amount of time. There's 24 hours in a day. It just depends how you use it. You just need to kind of like train yourself in a way. I have lists everywhere. I have post-it notes. So if I'm in work and I think of something like on my shopping list, I'll write it down. Or yeah, just lists, and always be prepared as well. Like I'll always have chicken in the freezer, and every say 3 days I'll take some out, get it defrosting, cook a batch, make sure it's just rolling all the time. And yeah, I generally do like a big food shop on a weekend, on a Saturday or something, do like a big one, and then if there's anything that I've not got in or I'm running low on, just pick it up as you go. But always make sure you've got your fundamentals, the basics in, because otherwise, if you're not prepped as well, you're not prepared, or you've not got your meals with you, it would be so easy just to like nip to the garage, or oh, I'll just nip and get this, or and you start like picking up bits or going off track. So yeah, that's one big thing with me, is always have the food in.
Well, and yeah, and I can say the most female thing ever is making lists and stuff and post-its, because I've never heard of any of the guys that I've talked to ever do that, or myself. And every girl that I've known makes lists and post-it notes. So maybe that's something that us guys should get on, because it seems to work really, really nice for them. But lastly, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
Yeah, just probably shout out to Soph that you had on
Yeah.
last time from the
Oh yeah,
UK.
she was awesome. Yeah, that was the guest I
Yeah,
was talking to you about from Nottingham. Yeah, I was like, oh my god, you're from
yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, she's
yeah,
great. Yeah.
yeah.
How do you know? How do you know her?
I went and watched her in PCA
Oh.
in September last year, I think it was. Just so supportive on Instagram, showing me the air fried banana, air fried mushrooms, different tips, techniques. And yeah, just shout out to everyone in the community really, and also my boyfriend for being so supportive, um, my coach for showing me the ropes, guiding me, massive inspiration of mine, and my mother. Yeah.
I mean, the significant others, the boyfriends on this podcast, or the girlfriends on this podcast too, need more of a shout out than any, because they deal with everything that goes around. Let's be honest, you're not in the nicest state of mind when you're all dieted down and you're doing all your cardio. So they really deal with it, and they should get an award in and of itself. But again, yeah, it's just so great having you on. Is there anything else that you'd like to say before we wrap it up?
No, that's it. Yeah, I think.
All right. Well, absolutely. Well, again, you guys, everyone go and give her a follow on her Instagram page that I'll leave down below. And, Bethan, thank you so much for coming on and, sharing your story. I really, really appreciate it. And it was just so great having you on.
Oh, thanks for the great opportunity.
Absolutely. And, everyone, yeah, I'll keep posting on her. I honestly think she'll do great in her show. But again, you guys, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.